Alright guys, I have to apologize. For once, I have a deck that's not Prank Kids. I know I've been going hard with the Prank Kid content lately, but I wanted to bring to you guys a rendition of Unchained. It's been a couple months since I got you an Unchained deck. This is post Phantom Rage, so it means that we have a new meta. The meta has shifted a little bit, with Infernoble being very strong still and Dragon Link still being represented. A lot of Prank Kids, a lot of Zoo, a lot of some Phantom Knights, and just some mid-range decks like Virtual World have seen more play, at least at locals, which is really the only competitive scene that we have other than online play. So I figured I'd show you guys the ultimate locals deck. And this is a deck that a lot of people argue, like, do you play going first, do you play going second? I still think that playing going first is the most optimal strategy most of the time. I think that the only exception to that would be if you're playing against Dino. I think that UCT is just really hard to play going first against, so especially with Miscellaneousaurus, it's just really hard. So I think maybe against that deck go second, but I just really like going first, unless if you're specifically siding to go second. I think going first is is never bad, because you are playing hand traps that are good going first, going second. So if you get to set up your field, I say why not go first, but it's really up to you. So let's get into the deck profile. Before we get into it, I just want to say please subscribe to Bemani Lounge. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, and once we do that, we'll be getting to you some more cool content on every week. So yeah, let's get into the deck profile. So we'll start off with the Unchained cards. It's pretty normal stuff. We got 2 Disaster. A lot of people cut this down to 1. I think you have to at least play 2, just in case you draw 1. You want to have 1 in deck to link off your opponent's cards. 2 Abominable Unchained Soul to pop non-targeting destruction, which is really nice. Triple Aruha and triple Rakia. Now, obviously, this doesn't really change much at all. These cards are just all the same thing. They special from deck. I play 2 Sarema. A lot of people like to play 3. I think 2 is a good number. Like, I really want to have 8 of these in my deck, and I do have 1 tech. I used to play Tour Guide. I did cut it because I think a lot of people are just playing Valor right now, and obviously Impermanence and Ash, so it just kind of loses to every hand trap. So I'm playing the one of Sangan. So Sangan is just a good card because it can search you, all your Unchained guys, or at least the twins. It could also search you a hand trap, so that's really nice. I like that, the versatility, and you just link it off into Almirage, or you could pop it with a Ruha going first. So it's pretty good. It's a fiend if that ever comes up, but yeah, these cards are good. It could also, like, what I like about Sangan is that while having Disaster in your hand is mostly not optimal, you can search Disaster at times because you can pitch it off of Abominable Unchained Soul, and then if you pitch it and you're able to go into your link monsters, and you could you could reborn with Chamber, or you could add it back. So having Disaster in cycle is really nice, and it's like the best card to pitch off of Abominable Unchained Soul. So Sangan gets you like different parts of your deck. Like, I like how it can get you to your Unchained cards, but it could also get you to a hand trap, which is quite nice. So whatever portion of your hand is lacking, whether you need a defensive card or you need like a starter card, Sangan can fill that gap. So it's just a one of that I think I like to continue playing in the deck. So that's it for the monsters, really, for the for the core monsters. And then for the spells, we play triple Abomination's Prison, triple Pot of Extravagance, because you don't really go into the extra deck that much with this deck, and then 1 Wailing. I don't think this will ever change. I think Wailing is nice. It's being able to destroy a card on the field is good. It outs. It's another out to Megaclops, which is kind of nifty, and yeah, you have a lot of utility out of Wailing, and if any of them are E-Telly if they're popped, so that is never bad. And then we get into the traps. We play triple Chamber and triple Escape. These cards are all really good against, the back row decks. Escape is really good. Chamber is just good for grinding. So the deck has an amazing grind game. So now we get into the fun part. We get into the hand traps. So I think one of the most important hand traps for this deck is actually Phantasme. I would almost argue that it's like more of like an engine card, just because of, you know, how good Phantasme is as a body. You know, the problem with this deck is that sometimes you just need more bodies to go into your link monsters, because when you're summoning link monsters, you're actually usually in a very good spot. It's just hard to get to that point sometimes, because you don't want to overcommit into like a rage, but then like if you get stopped, you kind of just lose resources there. So Phantasme is just good for A, dodging targeting effects, and B, just drawing drawing into your power cards, which is quite nice. And speaking of power cards, we have Triple Gamma with the unfortunately the 1 brick with the driver. I think that this card is just too broken right now. Unfortunately, I don't really like to play bricks in slower decks, but I think that is warranted here because it's one of the only hand traps that stops Infernoble and Dragon Link by itself, so you don't really need any other cards. I understand that these two kind of conflict, but again, if you draw it off the Phantasme, you can just shuffle it back. And also, you need your power cards to go through, so if you draw your Desires and your Abomination's Prison, the likelihood of you drawing, you know, multiples is there, but really most of your hands is gonna be like 4 hand traps plus 1 starter, so you really need that starter to go through. So if you have Abomination's Prison and they have Ash, sometimes that just means pass your turn, but if you have the Gamma, it doesn't really matter, right? So it's pretty good. So that's pretty necessary for right now. And then similar with Nibiru is just really good. I think that the biggest thing with Nibiru is like you need to slow down Infernoble and before they rip your hand, otherwise you just can't play. And then the same thing against Dragon Link, and of course it's really good against Prank Kids. So Prank Kids is obviously a deck that you guys are aware of just by watching the channel, and Nibiru just kind of shuts them down. And then we play 2 Ghost Bell. So Bell is a card that I actually really like over Ash, believe it or not, right now. Just because of the fact that Bell, when you look at most of the meta decks, Ash does nothing against Infernoble. It doesn't really do much against Dragon Link either. But Bell is actually really good. It's really good at stopping key effects, right? So it's good at stopping 001 from coming back. It can stop Martial Metal Marcher. It can stop Plague Spreader. It can stop your Deer Servant Invocation. It can stop the Buster Blader Trap. It can stop a myriad of cards that are actually just really good. It can stop Scarlet Sanguine. It can stop Golden Lord from coming back. And it's one of our search targets off of Sengen. So it's pretty good. I like that the card is kind of not really played right now, and people don't respect the card, so I actually opted to play this over Ash. But again, if you're at a locals where you think Ash is better, then be my guest to play Ash. And then to round up the hand trap lineup, we have Triple Impermanence. So these are just the cards that I decided to go with. Obviously, Impermanence plays around Connector, and it's just a little bit better than Valor in a deck that's not playing Hucklefi Brax. So this is the hand trap lineup. I think that this hand trap lineup is pretty good. Like if you draw multiples against any deck, you should be able to shut them down, and as soon as you simplify the game state, you're able to take over with your Unchained monsters. So that is it for the main deck, and now let's get into the extra deck. So of course the extra deck is, you know, pretty like, it's not really like the most important part of the deck, but I think that there is some skill into building a extravagance extra deck. So you want to have, you know, max out on all the Unchained Link monsters. There's no reason not to. These are the cards, if you do go into the extra deck, these are the cards that you're most likely summoning. So assuming you're going to banish 1 to 2 of each, you at least have 1 to play. Sometimes you're going to want multiple Rages or multiple Anguishes. And then, I don't know, maybe you can get away with like 2 Abomination, but like banishing it would not be good either. So we play 3 of each, and then we play the 1 Almirage for the Sangen. Like again, sometimes it comes up, sometimes it doesn't. Like if you have the if you banish the Almirage, like you could still have Aruha, and it could still, you know, work out. So it's not really a big deal if you banish it, but it does help you summon Hita. So Hita, you know, is good because you can obviously turn anything with any monster and Aruha into Hita. If you aren't under the restriction of Fiends, you can summon this card and then summon back like a fire monster like Ash from their graveyard, and link up into another monster. And we play area because of what's in our side deck, and also you can summon it with Rakia. So this one you can summon with Aruha rather. I think I said Rakia. You summon this with Aruha, this one with Rakia. And then we play the Lambda. So Lambda is good because we're playing Gamma, but we're playing it for another reason. We needed a light extra deck monster to fulfill a need in our extra deck, and I'll get into that in a little bit. And then we're playing one Equimax. This can help you get over Dragoon or OTK. You can summon this card after going into one of your Charmers, and then bring back, if they have an Ash or something, you just link up into this. And then if you have like a setup of like Aruha, Arakia, or any twin and Arakia, and or the level 8, you can OTK with this card by attacking first with the Equimax and then using Rakia to pop this. So this way you can just attack with the other cards. So it's a way to OTK. And then speaking of OTKs, we just have the access code talker. So yeah, that's it for the extra deck. I think that these are good utility cards to sometimes go into, but you don't really need to play cards like Unicorn. That doesn't really come up. You mostly play these because of a restriction from one of our cards in our side deck, which I'll get into in a little bit. So let's get into the side deck. I think the side deck's pretty cool for this deck. So first of all, we play triple of the new card, Alpha, the Master of Beasts. Of course, this card has been seeing some play in Zodiac. It's seen some play in just basically very mid-range decks that can have one card plays. Of course, this deck is no exception. You can drop the Alpha to go battle phase, attack over a Herald or something, bounce a Dragoon if you want to do that. It's one of your only ounce to Dragoon, which is kind of a hard card to get over in this deck. So Alpha was needed as a non-targeting bounce. And then to pair with it, we have one Pankratops. So going second against just any mid-range decks, these cards are just really nice. And now that we can basically play essentially 4 Pankratops is quite nice. So those are them. So these cards come in again against the back row decks or mid-range decks. And then if we're playing against Infernoble, we play triple Gizmic Uka, the Festive Fox of Fecundity. Now this card is a card that can shut down Infernoble. Sometimes it requires an extra hand trap with it. But for its targets, we can summon Arakia, we can summon Aruha, we can summon a Sarema, which is nice to be able to summon any of those. But we're actually mostly going to be summoning Barrier Statue of Torrent, because they go into Halqifibrax, or they go Connector, summon Dolphin, in which case you would target the Dolphin. But if they go Halqifibrax to summon the 001, you can summon Gizmic Uka. Now sometimes they try to set up Herald before that, so if you have any other negation to stop the Herald from happening, and then drop the Uka, you can knock them out. But most of the time, if they have Connector, you could just stop them right away. And it's good against any Halqifibrax deck, I should say that. So and then we play one more target for it. We play the Barrier Statue of Heavens, because the Dragon deck actually just summons Vylon Cube off of the Halqifibrax. So it can be quite good to have multiple targets, and if you're playing against some random deck that summons a bunch of light monsters from the deck, then it could be good. So what I should say is also Gizmic Uka, very good for time, because your opponent takes 300 for every summon, and if they have an Earth monster on their field, you can summon another copy of itself. So this way, they're pretty much taking 600. I believe it stacks similar to the Trickstar cards. So these cards just come in against the combo decks, the Halqifibrax decks. It's kind of like having 3 more Nibiru. These cards are also really good against Prank Kids. So if you go against Prank Kids, you pretty much have 3 Nibiru, 2 Bell, which are really good against them, and the Gammas. So plus the Yukas, it's just too much. So, and then for the back row decks, we play the 2 evenly in the 1 Harpy's Feather Duster, along with 2 Heavy Storm Duster. I wanted to include Storm Duster. I think that this card is very nice because it can proc your own effects. So if you open a hand of Duster plus Chamber, where Chamber would just be dead if you didn't open a monster, you could pop your own Chamber, pop one of their spell traps, and then proc your Chamber to summon a monster from deck. So that could be quite nice. Also, I should say about the Uka, this can summon regardless of who summons from the deck. So if a monster is summoned from the deck, if you summon him from the deck, you could also special this from your hand, and it could be a body for one of your rages. So that could be really nice. So quick mention there. And then to round off the list, we play the 1 Saki Imperial Order. I've seen too many people just like win games for free with this. It could be quite good. So that's it for the deck profile, right? So it's very like basic. Like the idea of the deck is just to slow down the game state until you get to a point where you can pretty much just capitalize on your resources. So anyway, guys, like the profile, but also really test out this deck for yourself. See if you agree with my choices. If not, leave some suggestions in the comment section below. And I mean, I don't know what you're doing if you're not playing Sengen in your deck in 2020. I don't think you're playing a good enough deck. So anyway, that's it for me. This is Henry from the Team Bemani Lounge, Team Lionheart, signing off. Bye, guys.